Okay, I think we're live. And everybody, this is the first official episode of the Lost and Found Bin with Chick and SMQ. And it's pretty exciting stuff. Our first episode.
It is super cool.
It's very cool. I think it's just giving something a name like this just kind of makes it more official. You know what I mean? Like, we've got a thing now. It's kind of cool.
I think so too. I hope people get the name, but I think when they do get it, they like it a lot.
Okay, so I think hopefully you guys were able to hear that, and hopefully hopefully everybody did it sound too weird, you guys? We were trying to hey everybody, hopefully you guys heard that. Yeah, okay. See, what it was is I was late, and at the last, it sounds great now. Yeah. Did you guys hear the intro though? I was trying to say, because it was the first episode, and okay, I hear you. Okay, it sounds better. You heard it. Okay, great, Buster. So, Chick, that was our illustrious start 52 episodes ago, and everyone in here, I want to thank all of you for being with us. And what do you say, Chick?
I can't believe it's been 52 episodes. That's really, really an amazing benchmark.
It is. It's pretty amazing. And as I was digging through different episodes, and it's amazing the amount of ground that we've covered in 1 year. It's really amazing. And then seeing everybody in the chat, and it's the same people day in and week in and week out that stuck with us this whole time. Like Lanessa, Suso, the reader, Lisa W. Obviously, we got Buster. Yeah, man. I mean, Eric. I said the reader. Obviously, Eileen, thank you. Bling Laden, thank you. If you're new to the channel, you're just going to have to hold on because we've got a lot of great people here. Mike, thank you. I'm sure Dick's in here somewhere. Dark Slayer, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here and staying this whole time. Everyone, Tail Eye Vision, thank you. Jamie, Lisa W, Brenda. There's Dick. Excellent. Lenny, obviously Lenny said he won't be here during showtime. Okay, but he wished us happy anniversary. And everyone else, Amy, everyone. Just it's been 52 weeks and we have covered quite a bit. I mean, we've covered quite a bit, I think.
I'm just thinking back right now on all the different topics that we've gone through, because usually we go through quite a few topics per episode, and then you have 52 episodes. So I imagine there's been a couple of hundred things that we've talked about.
Yeah, and it does seem that way. Hey, Dead GPK. Hey, Mandy. Hey, Sharkington. No, thank you all for being here so much. But you're right. It is learning to fly. Hello. It is interesting when you do something like that, and you go back and look at how much we've actually covered. I mean, we went from it was Schumann resonance, the Philadelphia experiment. What the plan was, and if it sounds weird to you guys, I won't do it. I had lined up clips from different episodes, like just about 4 of them, just, to show you different things. But what I'll do is we can talk about these particular clips. So the first clip, Chick, if you remember way back, and people may or may not remember if you're sort of new or whatever, do you remember the issues with the Schumann resonance when it started to become on the scene, and then we started to have magnetic issues? And if you remember the Sunspot Observatory, at the time it had shut off for some emergency exercise for like 24 hours. And at the time, I believe there was some sort of event in the sky, and I was going to run the clip so we could hear it, but if it doesn't sound right, then I don't want to do that. But that just gives you an idea, Chick, of all the things that we've covered.
It does, and that was one particularly bizarre event. I mean, we've had events with sunspots and the observatory. Obviously, that was a big story. The time the moon was going crazy, we talked about that. There's actually a couple of times the moon was going crazy, but I'm referring to the time the moon seemed to be hit by some large object, and then we immediately shifted the next day to a different map, like a different world map. So I presume a different parallel or a different world, or however this works. But yeah, we've seen a lot of crazy things. Not to mention, probably a couple of 100 million years worth of geological shifts, and some geological shifts that wouldn't even be possible, such as Madagascar becoming so much larger in size, and it's actually changed how they think that the post Pangea continents were formed. Like, there's just all kinds of wild things that we've seen over the course of 52 episodes of just this show. So
That's amazing. And that's just it, 52 episodes, and you're talking about massive geo shifts that, particularly you, I consider my geo expert that I turn to immediately anytime that I have any kind of geo question. And it's like, it's just, it's massive movements inside of that. So it's just so amazing. And you're right, millions of years of movements and shelf and tectonic movements in 52 weeks. And this world does look different. It feels different by vibration and frequency, and we'll get into that later. But you look at the map, and it's always changing. It's constantly changing.
it is. One of the latest big changes was Alaska. Alaska's
Right.
gotten really strange. Anchorage seems to be turning into an island. So it's getting real wild out there.
Oh wow, yeah, and that's the thing. There's this thing I took a picture of a couple days ago in the sky. Just kind of shifting real quick before I forget, because someone commented on it in here. It's called in the sky. It's like a sky elemental, and it's called a sylph. And it's a it looks like a cloud that's kind of, it's like three or four clouds that are entangled with one another. And then I was given a video by Petra from Battle School, and in the video, this cloud formation went over a chemtrail, and it immediately like enveloped it, and then it made it kind of disappear. And then over time, the clouds came out, and it was beautiful. So it's just things like that you learn about all the time simply from being open and willing to listen to everyone. Hey, Nicola, thank you for showing up, and Larry, thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for being here. But it's things like that. Once you're wide open and you're willing to listen to the people who have this information. And I know some channels just completely snub people, and that's kind of their shtick, but that's not really the case here. As much as we can, I try to interact, and even when it was really, really negative in the beginning. And I think we're finally getting that positive momentum, and I think we're really making headways here. And I think we're a unique channel. I don't think there's anything like us in ME, but I don't think there's anything like us on YouTube.
I don't think so. We were just talking before we went on the show about how this is a really unique place for different people with different perspectives to all talk with each other on kind of strangely a common playing field here in the middle of the Mandela Effect. And it's one thing that thankfully is, it's not about arguing about our differences. It's about the things that are all happening to us exactly the same. And I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that, but to me, they seem to be all positives.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting timing. If you want to we can go ahead and talk about this now. It's turning out to be somewhat of a controversial episode that I had with Jeremy Crow, and he is a 20 plus year occultist. And I wanted him on, just like I had people on who are experts in their field. And that's what the show is about. And I also, on the community tab for all the regulars, if you want to go, I gave an explanation of why. And one of the things, Chick and I were talking about it, everyone, is that what we're trying to do here and accomplish on this channel is understand from people who are experts in their field, and bring their information that we don't have, especially in this coming year, because we want to celebrate the year that we've done, and we will do this, and we may even go over an hour. Who knows? Let's just go crazy today. But in this coming year, there's going to be more of that. And not specifically the occult, but there could be in the medical field, in the psychology field, which is also basically the medical field, in the media field. There's all kinds of different guests that I want to line up. And I want if they're affected or they're sympathetic or they believe it or they're anything having to do that's positive towards the Mandela effect, and they have a proficiency at something, I want to have them on because I was telling Chick I don't want to be like a lot of other channels where they speak really loud or with authority and then they have nothing to back up their claims. I want to have, real research. A lot of it is done by Buster, thank you, and a lot of it's done by the rest of the chat, all of you. A lot of it's done by Chick and myself. And I want to present documents. I want to present articles. I want to present first person narratives. I want to interview people. And that was the point here. And whenever I talk about a doctor or I have someone on who's an expert like Vanessa VA in sort of the therapy arena, everybody's okay with it. But if I have someone who is an occultist on, I want you to understand where the channel's coming from, is that you can further understand what's happening. Because what happened was we were able to harmonize, which is an important word for me now, with something that happens in the Mandela effect, which is retrocausality. And retrocausality, where something in the present seems to affect the past. And or something in the future affects the past. But basically, the linear time thing is gone, is what retrocausality ultimately is. And what we were able to do is find out something that I would have never found out, is a causal magic he was talking about. So once again, we were able to take a scientific term that they probably stole from the occult, and they put a nice shiny wrapper on it, and they called it science. And ultimately, what was probably there first, just like what Isaac Newton did and all the original thinkers, they will take from the occult and they will transform the language, and then they will turn it into science. So the point is, you have on someone because they're interesting. You have them on because they're an expert, especially in the coming years. That's why I'm saying this, is because this is going to happen a lot more. But also because you can hear firsthand what they're thinking. And you've got to understand, like what Eileen is saying, got to understand occultists because ruling elites are expert occultists. That's it. I've always heard that saying. Millionaires, they pay attention to the charts, but billionaires pay attention to the stars. And because I used to work in the market, I used to work as a tech person for a trading house. I understood that there was an esoteric side to finance. There is an esoteric side to that, but I was so down in the food chain that I was nowhere near that. In fact, they actually had an office of esoteric finance. They literally have offices in some of the higher end finance organizations. I have no idea what the heck they did in that office. They weren't even in the partition part of IT where I worked. But Chick, going forward here, and we're not going to be strained by the hour. I think it's a good thing. What? That's my point of view. What are you thinking?
Well, I just thought that, like, there's kind of like little groups usually in the Mandela Effect scene, and they have their scene, the Mandela Effect world, I suppose, online. And it seems to be that people kind of section off into their own little groups of people who are like them. And I thought that this was a super cool place, this show, this thing right here, because everybody was welcome to talk. Like, I was welcome to talk and openly coming in Christian, and you're, of course, your channel, you're welcome to talk coming in Power of Now, and people in the chat who are of different faiths or maybe no faith or whatever it is. The point was, we could all see the white sun. We could all see the Bible changes. We could all see, whatever the Mandela Effect change it was that we're talking about. And I thought it was really cool to not exclude people, but to talk about everything that is going on with us. And I didn't really see any other place like that. And I don't really know of any other show that's like that except for this right here.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that, and it means a lot to me because you are an open professing Christian, and I have a Christian on my channel every week, and it may be my channel, but it's our show, and there is no lost and found without Chick. So every week we get and we're augmented by a Christian perspective, and I practice the power now, which is basically lesser Buddhism. But the point is that we have your point of view always ready to go. And you know, I want to bring on other people from other states of mind if they have something to offer. And that retrocausality is immediately the thing that comes to mind, where we've added a piece of the puzzle. And I don't want to be an echo chamber. And I also want to, I like the way that Jeremy put it. Whether or not you like it, these people are doing these things. Now, I happen to know Jeremy, and I've been corresponding with him for more than a year. It's been since the Mandela Effect, and I was the one who was curious. I was the one asking him questions. I was the one who was prodding him. I wasn't recruited. There was nothing like that going on. And I'm going to be honest. For the people that left the channel, I'm a little disappointed. Not because of the numbers, truly not because I was hoping that we all were on the same page, and I realized maybe it was a shortcoming on my point of view. And I think a year episode is a great way to sort of put out the mission statement of this channel and a mission statement of this program in particular, is that, just like Chick said, we want everything to get in here because we understand that the world has changed irreparably, and it's changing every single day. And if we can bring someone aboard that has a point of view that may help us, focus the lens just a little bit, then I'm going to bring them on. And as long as they're respectful and they're not offensive and they're not mean spirited. And that's the last thing. I heard someone said he sounded like Terrence McKenna. Jeremy does, and he has that vibe of a Terrence McKenna. He's a nice guy. And I don't, if someone is going to, I have to take people at face value. This is the internet. If I didn't take people at face value, then I wouldn't talk to anyone. Because for all I know, Chick is just pretending to be Christian, and she's not who she presents herself as. Could be anybody. I don't know any of you in the top chat. The only people I've met in person is Vanessa VA and the handful of people who want to remain anonymous. During the Mandela Effect conference of 2018, I think. Yeah, it's last year, or now it's 2019. Heck, I mean, it may have been a year and a half ago at this point. Anyway, the point is, when you're in the internet and people have the ability to mask themselves, oftentimes, as long as they have a consistent record, and Jeremy's been on the internet for almost a decade, if not a decade, then you have to take at face value that this isn't some long con from some CIA organization. Jeremy is who he says he is. And that's why I invited him on. Just like people, I try to approach them whenever I feel comfortable with them. And I hope my judgment doesn't fail me. And so far with this channel, I think everybody I've pulled on has been excellent in terms of their ability to, bring it, bring something to the table. Chick and I, she brings it to the table every single week. And that's why I think I feel blessed to be surrounded by so many wonderful, intelligent, competent people. So, Chick, I guess as a year, I just want to thank you for, being a part of this. And we've been through a lot, and it's been really awesome and really strange at times. I mean, you and I have talked about, we haven't had good weeks, and we've been honest with people. We haven't had good weeks.
That's true. But definitely thank you for that. And I think of all of the different things that we've seen change, and all of the different things that, we've seen with people trying to go through these changes, and like the human side of this experience. And this is an amazing show that seemed to write itself. Like, you and I didn't plan this. We didn't know each other beforehand or anything.
Nope.
It all came together. And even live on air, we came up with the name The Lost and Found Bin. And I think it was just like meant to be kind of thing. And I think it's been definitely awesome for me. And I hope awesome for everyone that's been involved. And I think that together we've really unearthed some really deep concepts, things that people haven't really been talking about with the Mandela Effect. And I think it's just been a great kind of I love the things that we're different about and the things that we're the same about, because I think it makes the most interesting conversation.
Oh, totally. You and I are very diverse people in our thinking, in our spirituality. Everything about us is pretty different, I think, but I think it's for the better. And I think too that demonstrates in some small way that you do need that kind of, and I know it's a played out word, but and I don't have a better word right now. You need that sort of diversity, that diversity in thought, that diversity in experience, and you need to bring it in. And it was like, when Buster, he started to bring it with the CIA documents. Everyone complains about the CIA. Everyone talks about the CIA. I've probably seen a million YouTube videos. There's nothing on YouTube in this side of YouTube that doesn't involve talking about the CIA. And we finally get, documents that are FOIA documents from the CIA, and it's sort of like when we brought Jeremy on. No one, there wasn't there's a subset here that's in the chat that's awesome. And there's people that are probably watching that don't participate. They're awesome and they get it. And sometimes they leave comments and sometimes they don't. But there was a small subset and they're like, you can't trust the CIA. This is a ruse. This is X, Y, and Z. And it's like, at some point, you're simply going to have to, jump off the diving board and jump in the pool. And you're going to have to draw the line somewhere. And if you get it wrong, and as long as you get it and you win in with an integrity, and if you get it wrong, then I'm gonna apologize and say, okay, this document wasn't true. And if that day ever comes, I will actually come on the moment I know, and I will let you guys know that I was fooled. And that's the best I can do with the amount of integrity that I have.
Absolutely. And I feel like any time where we thought that something was different than how we thought it was before, or that we were wrong about something, we have, apologized or taken it back. Or there hasn't been many instances like that come to mind, but I do think that in especially in a situation like this, if it came about that somehow that was just a joke paper, which I seriously doubt, but if somehow it was, we'd be the first ones to say this paper's been discredited by like whatever. But I mean, the paper to me is still, and I think will be for a long time, just amazing from the time that it comes from the different elements of faith from almost everywhere that it pulls from, and from the things that are more crossing into the scientific as well as faith aspects. It's just this amazing paper, and I don't think it means that the concept belongs to the CIA or something. I think it's just literally something they wanted to get a hold of and weaponize. But I think it's something that belongs to all of us. And in the way the paper's put together, even, it makes me feel that it belongs to all of us and it's part of us. And it's something that, for the most part, I'm sure as adults, you've all been told it's not real. Like, none of this stuff is real. You can't click out, and, time is linear, and the Mandela Effect is nonsense because physical matter can't change. And it's just like, even by your own, for a person coming from that perspective, even by their own very stringent, very black and white view of reality, even in their scientific world, quantum physics says it is possible. So, like, they really don't have a leg to stand on.
And I think one of the beautiful things about that document in particular, and I just want everyone to know, that document changes everything, not just the Mandela Effect. It changes all of fringe culture. And in no way am I defending the CIA. The point I'm saying about the CIA document is that the Monroe Institute exists. There's a lot of people in this chat and a lot of people I've spoken to that have gone through the Monroe Institute and went through the program. And they everything about it they're saying is real. That's in the document. And I'm gonna have to go. If not this year, then definitely sometime in the next year. I am gonna go to the Monroe Institute and I will incorporate it into this channel. And whether it's for just a class or a seminar or an interview, I will drive or I'll get there somehow and I will do this Monroe Institute thing. And again, this is not a validation of the CIA being a good organization or me endorsing the CIA. This is a validation of people who have been to the Monroe Institute. It's a validation of saying that there is a document where official sources, it had to be ripped from their hands from a FOIA request, that they knew these kinds of things existed, like the world being a hologram, the things being malleable, things that we already knew. We knew it from the Mandela Effect. We knew it from people going to the Monroe Institute. We know it from people who practice the occult. We know it from people who know things about history and esotericism. And now we have a document that helps us further widen the understanding of what it is they are actually doing. And yes, it's 35 years old, so they're light years away from that. But that's not the point. The point is we now have something tangible. And I'm reading from Prelim. He's saying my friend Tim ended his life blaming the CIA without explaining why or what he meant by saying what they did. I'm sorry to hear that, Prelim. That's awful. I'm so sorry to hear that. And again, it's like when you hear testimony like that, you've got to you've got to go. You got to go and find out what's happening. And I think by even if it is CIA FOIA requests that are 35 years old, all right, it's at least something. This channel, we've been able to, through that document and subsequent documents, and bringing on people that other channels would either not because of whatever reasons they have. I think that a lot of people just don't want to do their homework. A lot of people do it out of fear that he said, I think he felt deceived by them. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, there's CIA. That makes sense that they would mess with them. I'm sorry to hear that, Perlem, but we're doing it. And we're going to do it the best we can. And I will, there was a article that I read and it turned out to be an April Fool's article. And immediately Buster and I, we were having a conversation on air and I copped to it immediately, said, oh, that's it. I'm sorry. And fortunately it only took up about 2 minutes of time and, he caught it quick and that was it. We pulled it and it was over with. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Is I'm going to take the documents. If I say CIA, if I see it and it's from CIA.gov or it's from anything.gov and it's from any kind of official archive like Smithsonian or something like that, I'm running with it. If it's got something funky, I mean, I think that's fair, Chick. What do you think?
I think it is, and I mean, I think that you're kind of the same as me. Like, you never remember April Fool's Day because you probably don't prank people. I
Right.
didn't know it was either. But things have gotten so outrageous that there was no reason to think it was an April Fool's prank.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And that was my point, is that it doesn't matter. I mean, the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. It was that week too. I think it was within that week or two. The moon was in Earth's atmosphere. And it was like, people, come on, man. Come on. You know?
exactly. So, if on a normal day the moon is suddenly within Earth's atmosphere because we had data in the 90s that we never bothered to look at, how are you supposed to become more outrageous for April Fool's Day?
Exactly. Good point, right? It's like that. So that's why it was I almost didn't even feel bad because you know what I really said in the back of my mind, Chick? I was like, wait, it's going to be true eventually. So whatever. I mean, but at the time I didn't feel like I could say that, but I feel more free now because some of this criticism I can understand where people are coming from. I truly get that. And I understand where they're coming from, but I also want to say my piece where I'm coming from. And I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Hey Bling Laden, hey Mishka, Larry, everybody, Tad, thank you for coming on. Wascally Wabbit, cool name. Thank you for coming on this 1 year episode. But this is where we're going in the future, everyone. If I can find someone who's authentic and they have, really good credentials, I can check them out. I can see videos or if they've got a book or something like that, and they can somehow give us an interesting perspective on the Mandela effect or even an interesting perspective on reality and the nature of existence and why we're here. I'm bringing them on. And they've got some kind of, expertise, or they have a field of study that they've been in, or they have some kind of practice that's spiritual or otherwise. I'm bringing them in. And, I want bigger numbers, and I've always said that, but I'm not going to let ego trump substance. So I'm pulling them on, man. I don't care.
I don't think there should be any problem with that because I think, like everybody that's in the chat, they want to know what is really going on with reality, what is the truth, because it's obviously not what we've been told all of our lives and what's been presented to us. And in a lot of crazy ways, it seems that the fiction that was presented to us was closer to the truth, and the so-called truths that were presented to us about, how time factually works and how this and that factually works, that turns out to be, at this point, either obsolete or perhaps was never true. And that's one of the mysterious parts, is trying to figure out, were we in a stupor and the Mandela effect was going on around us and we couldn't see and we suddenly woke up, or if the Mandela effect just started all of a sudden, but only some people can see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, one of the more recent ones that I got just at lunch, I was out at lunch, and did you guys see this math problem from Harvard? I'll send out this link. It's from harvard.edu. So again, it's an official, as official as you get. I know we rail on it's like one of those organizations like the CIA. We can rail on about, modern science and modern institutions, but we also want to go with these official sources. So we can say that when it's going to happen, it will eventually happen. People are going to critique us, and they're going to say whatever. We're going to be able to say, look, at least we're using official sources. And that's also why I also leave links in everything I talk about. I'll send this out here real quick. It's called Ambiguity, and it's for math. Did you see this, Chick? I tweeted it out just really recently. And it's kind of nerdy. It's kind of mathy, but I loved it because let me send it out here. I'll put it in the chat for everybody. Actually, now that I've thought about it, but like you said, it happens so naturally to us now, Chick, that, it's things like this. I just sent it with harvard.edu. And I just saw this at lunch before the show. And they're trying to say this math problem now has two answers, and Harvard beats around the bush. But ultimately, they say that this particular math problem, which is 6 divided by 2 and then 2 plus 1, and then it's the parens, it has two answers. It can be 9 or it could be 1. And we're getting to a point where even math itself is becoming sort of ambiguous. It can be fuzzy. Math itself, the very bedrock of how planes are able to stay in the air, which they don't always now, even that is getting fuzzy. And this was going around YouTube, and people were like, is this a 9 or a 1? And actually, I'll actually send out my Twitter. I'll send out the Twitter link here. It's called The Human Experience, and they have, here we go again, which one is correct, and they have two calculators. And depending on what calculator you use, you get different numbers. Yeah, math is in a state of superposition. Absolutely, Buster. Math is definitely in a state of superposition. And when we talk about superposition, what we're talking about is out of this time space. So therefore, math doesn't have to adhere to the laws that we've come comfortable with. So it's pretty crazy, actually. That math can have two different answers, Chick.
It's extremely crazy. And one of the things, like I saw it briefly when you tweeted it out, that came to mind immediately is I've been watching like what some of the people who are from Orion, or at least think they're from the Orion reality, that don't really see Mandela effect changes, but they're observant in other ways. And numbers seem to tie into events and energies and stuff here a lot more than in the old reality in the Sagittarius arm. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see numbers all the time, like 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 22, 22, like whichever one of the numbers shows up for you more. So it's different with different people, but it's definitely part of the Mandela effect. But it sprang to mind immediately that one of the meanings that I've seen a lot of like Orion arm, like numerologist people talk about, is that the meaning of 1 is obviously like the beginning and that kind of, wild catalyst energy, and 9 is the end. So I was like, it's kind of Schrodinger's cat. It's life and death. It's beginning and end. It's 1 and 0. And it's the same answer. It's in superposition, and it's the two sides of the coin. And I was like, that's perfect on so many levels. That's really amazing.
It is. And it's one of the more profound Mandela effects I've ever seen was this math calculation, because I think Lanessa was saying talking about, pi, the calculation pi was at 3.14. It never ends. And so math, one of the things that a lot of people think are one of the few things that are solid. In a lot of ways, they're the most ambiguous. I've been working with data for almost 20 years now. And I can tell you numbers, I can make numbers look any way you want. I can manipulate numbers. And that's the problem. A lot of people are like, well, there's these tax loopholes and whatever. I don't want to get all about, politics. But what I can tell you is that if you're really good at numbers, you can do you can make numbers a lot like what a master painter can do with a canvas and just a few basic paints and create an entire world if you're good at it. And that's the thing about people they don't understand. And I frustrate people at work sometimes because I'm like, well, the data can be 4 or 5 different ways because they're like, well, I want the right answer. There is no right answer. That doesn't exist. There's 4 or 5 answers. And within those 4 or 5 answers, it all depends on what you intend. What is your intent with this data? Because I can come to a dozen different data points, but I've narrowed them to 5 because I'm trying to divine what it is you want exactly. And these are raw numbers. So I know whenever you start to get to now that is aggregated data. And I knew there was ambiguity with that. And it's gotten actually exponentially more insane in the computer world since the Mandela effect. But now we're getting down to really basic math where it's starting to, and it is very subjective. It's very notion, bias driven, and it's very intent driven. So it's, this idea that math is like the final thing. No, not at all. Math is incredibly subjective and is its own art form. So there you go.
For sure. And just thinking about the conscious observer aspect on it, as for the reality of math, and yes, math is an art form in itself, and it's something that you, like you just said there, you can attribute the word divine to it. You can go in and pull out what it is you're trying to accomplish there. Numbers have not really been my forte, but I definitely admire people that are gifted with math. I just thought from the conscious observer point of view, they changed the school curriculums on Common Core math quite a few years ago. What a lot of people don't know is they actually implemented it in Europe around 2007, 2008, and then brought it to the States later. So it's not a Washington initiative. But that aside, the system of Common Core math is the process. You get like half marks if you only put down the answer, like the question and the answer. What they want to see is the process of how you get to the answer, and the final answer doesn't actually matter. If you get the answer wrong, but you show a big process, then you'll get a lot of points and you'll pass your exam. So I was thinking if kind of the way that the new minds that are coming up through the system see it is the answer is not really important, it's the journey. It puts less solidity into the finality of the answer. Whereas when we went to school, it was always the answer needs to be correct or else you failed.
And another thing that you brought up there that's so important that I just realized, what they're doing then, with the way you've just described Common Core then, it sounds like you're trying to harmonize the way in which people actually think about things. You're not versus you wanted a free thinker to get to the number 39, for example, and they just wanted you to get to whether it was whatever level of math you were at, and they wanted you to get to the number 39. Good luck, go get it. And you were on your own to kind of go get it. And versus now you're saying that they want you to be process oriented regardless of what the results are. By doing that, what you're doing is you're training people how to think a certain way. And if we go back once again to the gateway process, what we're able to see that is that what people are doing is further training the consciousness. And the reason why they're doing that is somehow they were probably in a state of superposition and they saw, being in a nonlinear concept of time, something like the Mandela effect or something disrupting the sort of solidity of consciousness coming up. And that's the Mandela effect. So in order to offset that chaos and disorder, what they had to do was take a large chunk of the consciousness and a large chunk of individual co-creators and harmonize them so they could offset that kind of chaos and disorder. The question then goes back to how then is this chaos and disorder being brought about? Again, it goes back to, I'm getting further and further away from the Mandela effect being like a natural occurrence and in that it's always happened. I'm seeing it more and more like this Common Core where you're trying to harmonize thinking because we know the basis of existence is consciousness. So the way in which we all co-create is the way in which right now, what we're all experiencing. We did this together. You in your home, in your car, in the cube at work, wherever you are, in your life right now, listening to me, thank you again, or listening to Chick and myself, you have to realize that we've all co-created this together. Now, if you can bend and mold and move all those young minds for that next generation with what you've just described is, perhaps that's why whenever we were young, we were able to have a creative process in order to get to that number 39. If the answer no longer matters and it's all about the journey, then that's what they're doing, is they're trying to create a kind of cookie cutter reality where there's nothing but a total amount of sameness in the way everyone thinks. And that's, to me, that doesn't sound like a very positive process.
True, but I also think that if you knew that you were in a reality in a broken fractal, like in the ever present, which is kind of my way of saying it's forever the present. The past doesn't stay still, and the future doesn't stay still. They change and change and change, and nothing is going along a linear line. It might be the only way to teach children math. If you only live in the
Mm.
present, then only the journey matters because you're not getting to the destination.
Holy smokes. Wow. Talk about, see, this is what I'm talking about. You just demonstrated to me why we need a diversity of thinking. I never thought of it that way. What they're trying to offset is say, in order to have a coherent society, we have to, you're right. If the answer no longer works, we have to shift to the journey then, in order for there to be a meaningful and coherent co-creation in reality. Wow. So that is really a meaningful change, Chick, then it isn't a negative thing. That could be a very positive thing. And that way people are able to concentrate on the journey. And now that I'm saying it and thinking it through in my head, that is almost power of nowish, where you're just, you're right there in the moment making it happen. So, okay, you've convinced me. And see, this is what I think makes this show and this channel so awesome.
I think it is like one of our fortes, how we can bounce things back and forth and see it in a totally different perspective, like through each other's perspective, because you always think of angles that I would never think of. So I love that, and I think that that's definitely one of our great strengths there.
I do. We just demonstrated that. Well, you do too. You think, just like what you've demonstrated to me, is that the powers that be have accepted the Mandela effect, accept whatever they want to call it. I don't care. I don't even care about the name. Whatever this is, this quantum effect, whatever you want to call it, they've accepted it. And that's a defensive position, is what you've described, and a way to sort of buttress up reality so there can be one for the next generation. And that's a very prudent way to go forward, if indeed that you've acknowledged and you've realized and you've accepted that this is in fact real, what we're all talking about here. That's brilliant, actually.
I think that it is very important, and I'm glad that, or at least hopefully, somebody is thinking about what life is going to be like for the people who are school kids now, because they don't know anything about our reality. A lot of them were never there. They don't know about a yellow sun. They don't know about our high towering skies. They don't know about things staying, particularly linear. So I mean, for them, this is reality. So for them, it's important to have things that are solid to grasp onto. And I guess, like we just said there, the most solid thing you can grasp onto in this situation is the journey, because the outcome is going to be different than when you started. And even the point you started at is going to be different when you finish.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm seeing a lot of new people in the chat too, but I don't know, I think you and we may be shaking hands and slapping each other on the back, and I think that's what someone mentioned in the chat. But you know what? This is our 1 year episode, and I want to highlight what, yeah, we're going to hide that, Larry. I don't dude, we are not about that, Larry.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ban you, Larry, but
we
you're
usually don't do that, but it's our 1 year anniversary, so we're kind of celebrating a little bit and reflecting a little bit. Like if
yeah,
Larry's never been here before and he thinks that we're just pompous, it's like, no, you can listen to all the other episodes. We don't go wild and crack out the celebration unless it is a big event like this.
yeah, exactly. And Lisa's right. It's trying to stabilize an unstable environment. But also, too, what I was talking about with Larry is he had put something offensive that came up. Larry, just so you know, we're rated G here. I realized that someone was angry one time because they had posted a cuss word, and I didn't post it for them, and I didn't ban them, but they were very upset with me. And just Larry, just so you know, we're rated G here. So like Buster said, you've got a warning. Buster, it's at your prudence. So I just, and you can appeal to me directly because that email I have there to, if you care enough about the show, which I hope everybody does, but if you happen to have gotten banned or something and you want to appeal to me directly, you can through the email. But I don't want this to go that direction, Larry. So, but yeah, we are doing a little backslapping and stuff because you're right. You and I and Buster and everybody else in the team, even Angelia, everybody has anything about, and people in the chat and people that come to us on Twitter or they have cool ideas in the chat, we're usually nose to the grindstone. And this is a bit of a celebration today. So, I mean, this is like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't celebrate 52 weeks, when are we going to celebrate? I think this is the perfect time to just reflect and say, we really enjoyed doing this show, and it has to be really special. I mean, something that you come back and do 52 times in a row, it's got to be special or it wouldn't still be on here. And we have the same people come back all the time, so it's not just us that feel this way. It'd be different if it was just you and me talking to an empty room and slapping each other on the back, but that's not the case.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is it. Really is. And I just let me see. I was looking through these other episodes. I won't play them, but just give you an idea of sort of the diversity of issues that the Mandela Effect touches. Because if you think about the Mandela Effect, you think about the FOIA documents, you think about all the zany articles that we've pulled up, and we've got World War II. Chick, we've got what we've gone over. We've got the Philadelphia experiment. We've got obviously this the Sunspot Observatory, and it just goes on and on and on. And it's just, I mean, it's just unending the amount of things that we've covered, and it's just really cool. I think it's really awesome.
I'm like I think I said on the last week's episode, I'm also like very, very excited to think about what's going to come up in the future episodes. And I'm choosing to go excited because, in all honesty, the worry part of like geological shifting and things like that, I don't think it helps. And I choose to approach this as an adventure now, and to be like, we're seeing things that everyone back home is never going to get to see. It sounds like a wild fairy tale. It sounds totally insane, but we're getting to do this. And I'd like to see where it leads. And I'd like to see if, in 2 or 3 years, we are living on one big super Pangea continent. And people will say there was never separate countries. It was always one country. And we'll get to experience that. And we got to experience the old world the way it was. And I don't know, I feel like it's, something that we didn't plan for, we didn't even know was possible, but now that we're here, it's pretty amazing. And I just want to, instead of be worried about it or get too concerned about it, I think there has to be a positive aspects to this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great way to think about it. And now you get a different perspective, such a unique perspective, like what we just talked about. How else would you have arrived at that perspective about Common Core? That you're basically trying to offset the sort of lack of rigidness in the reality now. And that what an interesting way to think about something that you would think is a bit ho hum, or something that is, that may be politically charged, but you're looking at it from a completely different perspective that is absolutely unique, and in a lot of ways that makes you more powerful in a lot of ways. And I'm not really a power seeker in that way, but I think that if you can come at something within a unique or an interesting point of view, you end up with something new and fresh, and it's something that people are forced to think about in a new way. And then in that way, when you think about the CIA FOIA document, in your own way, you're helping the world to change at the consciousness level. You're helping it to really change. And the great thing is the way we're talking about, if you're new to the channel, we're not talking about some new AG kind of hippy dippy things. We're talking, go back to the CIA FOIA document and please read them. We're talking about stuff that people are actively engaging in. We're not talking about raising your vibrational frequencies in order to just, and we're not about that. We're about really presenting real things to you. You know, like that World War II expedition was just so hardcore. We had to pull out of that thing, man. That thing was getting rough whenever we started to realize what we could potentially be
I
doing.
know, and I'm just thinking like now as things go forward, as the countries are all getting closer together, France got closer to England again today. Uh, it just makes me think that eventually there will be no World War II because it wouldn't make sense if there was only one country. I mean, different territories on one landmass. Like I see the war was shifting,
Mm.
getting really scary and things like that. But now that this Pangea thing is really taking hold, even crazier. I mean, I just looked at the map earlier, and China is like disappearing. It's becoming more and more streamlined with the rest of the continent. The all of the oceans, the South China Sea is like almost enclosed. It's really small. It's the whole thing is changing, and it's all smoothing out and turning into giant one giant landmass, one giant situation. So either there will be a World War II that's entirely different or fought for entirely different reasons, or there won't be any World War II. And people will just say that never happened. What are you talking about?
Awesome. I mean, you know, I'm saying that's awesome. This person, Greg, said that the power of now changed his life. But yeah, if it continues that way and all of these countries end up touching, we're absolutely either World War II will not be the way we think that or it's not going to be the way in which it was presented to us is how it will be presented in the future, or it's going to disappear entirely. And the way that I think about that and why I think what you said isn't outrageous is simply because we now have the moon in Earth's atmosphere. And I still don't know where the Van Allen belts fall in all of this because the Van Allen belts was supposed to be between Earth and the moon. And we have that famous NASA footage where they talk about the dangerous Van Allen belts that they had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that where they caught him and it was like the flat earthers went bonkers because of that video? And it's like, okay, that thing is absolutely obsolete at this point because we now know that the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. You know, I haven't looked at it lately. For all we know, the moon now could be, you know, bumping up against our outer, atmosphere at this point. So who knows?
Well, it's definitely crazy because, like you said, where are they now? Supposedly there was so much radiation. They were so dangerous. You couldn't have human beings go through them, and they said we can't go back to the moon because the radiation is too crazy. But if they've switched places, like if the moon is inside Earth's atmosphere and the Van Allen belts is way out there, then there isn't any problem anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, and and I'm also noticing that the countries are becoming more and more emboldened with talking about missions to the moon, missions to Mars. And I thought that that was a PR thing to offset the whole FE movement. And I thought that's what that was about. But you're right. What if? What if now these kinds of things are absolutely within what the kind of science that we have right now? So
Yes, and I used to think that it was like kind of code talk because we were always worried about World War III kicking up. And when they talk about Mars, Mars, Mars all the time, a lot of people used to wonder, like, do they mean war when they say Mars? Because that's what Mars used to stand for back in antiquity. That's what it was symbolic of.
mhm.
But now in here in the Orion arm, we have Mr. Elon Musk, who didn't seem to exist in the Sagittarius arm. So I think they're literally talking about actual Mars. And what they seem to be saying about literal actual Mars is that it has some kind of an atmosphere now, and it has an underground lake, and it has all kinds of things that it didn't have. It was a dead planet in the Sagittarius arm.
And that's a good point you brought up. Characters just kind of drop out of nowhere. Like you're right, Elon Musk, he came from a shift. Yeah, he totally came from a shift. You can almost sense that we're from Sagittarius, and he's total Orion. He is the epitome of Orion, and it's all about the journey for that guy. The guy, I don't want to, I mean, obviously, I have no pull anyway, so it's not like I'm going to affect the stock price. But Elon Musk and Tesla and all that, they don't really produce a whole lot of things, and they're, that I see. But their stock value is just through the roof, and it's just, it's a complete I completely can see why that's an Orion state of mind. Absolutely.
the Orion state of mind is its own thing. That for the people that understand it, they think it's the most natural thing in the world, and for the people who don't understand it, it's the most mind-boggling thing you'll ever come across.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that is too. And maybe that's something that we should also incorporate and think about is if you're actually from Orion, the way you think like that journey thing is a survival mechanism. Could you imagine? I just thought of this chick. Like it's always been here, the shifting. And that's why we can't connect with people that are native to Orion. And we're the newcomers to the new world, literally the new world. Everyone in the chat, everyone who's in a, a hardcore ME, um, those of us that have just arrived. And what if that's the way they are and we can't connect with them because they are at harmony, they are at peace with the shiftiness, and to them they're not noticing it because it's simply part of the territory. And for us, we've just arrived within the last 3 years, last 4 years, some people say within the last 10, whatever it is. It's not been your whole life. For me it's 20 September, October 2016. So, for me, obviously, I'm going to notice, and I don't have that state of mind. I have a Sagittarius state of mind, but we're here in a completely alien environment, and maybe they're not NPCs. Maybe they're from here. So the shifts they don't see, they don't need to see it. And it's like that experiment where somebody can come in the room and you'll say, what color was their shirt? And they won't remember it. It's all part of that. They're just so at peace with it.
Yes, and I think that they're existing on a slightly different vibrational frequency to us. It's almost like we're all walking around the same playing field, but we're not. It's not quite like a ghost thing, but almost like we're almost in different realities, but we're all here together. And it's weird. The Sagittarius people still kind of vibrate on that Sagittarius level, and we're all kind of we're kind of similar ourselves. Yeah, and we don't often like comment on ourselves because we being from the Sagittarius arm think that we're normal and everyone else is weird, when in fact we have our own kind of kitsch, kind of clique things that don't make sense to Orion people. And I think that it's interesting to have the two different groups of people here who just seem to be tuned slightly different, like instruments that are tuned slightly different. I don't think it means that one is better than the other, or one is this or one is that, but I think it's very bizarre to have large groups of us together in the same place, and I wonder if that's a unique situation.
That's a great, yeah, that's actually pretty important because we keep saying them. What if it's us? You're right. What if it's us? And it's just a complete, we cross vibrations and they never touch. They never make a connection because when we're the ME community, we're also even if we're on different sides of the fence, we all sort of connect and we sort of get it. And it could be another channel that I don't even like or another channel that I don't even listen to. If they bring up a good Mandela effect and one that I can say, yes, that's different, I will agree with that channel and I won't fight it. I won't say anything about it. And I will go, yes, okay, yes, that's very valid. And because there's a mutual respect there, because we're all with the same frequency. Also, everybody, I heard someone mention the CIA FOIA document. I went ahead and pasted it in the chat, the original one, and that's the gateway document. If anybody's is brand new to the channel, this is sort of our rules of the road document, and it was a major earthquake, I think, for the channel and perhaps all of the Mandela Effect community. And it's kind of the way that we've sprung forth all those 2-3 months ago that we got the document. And ever since then, I've at least changed the way that I think about everything around me from reading that document. And if you're new to the channel and if you just got here within the last 10 to 15 minutes, the reason why the document is important to us and we don't think it's a fake is that the Monroe Institute does exist. It has always existed for a very long time. The man Monroe was a real human being, and you can wiki him. And there's people within the chat that's gone through, and they've said even in this chat as of this episode that they went through the process, and so it's all there. And if you read it, like Chick and I were saying, if you read it, I mean, I've studied different kinds of traditions and thinking and all kinds of things, and you read it and it actually works really well with some of those ways of thinking. So anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Always inviting new people.
I was just catching up on the chat there. There's loads of different cool ideas bouncing around there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Eileen Colts is talking about people who are programmed to fear the occult instead of study it to understand it. Well, I suppose you want to have an understanding of the world around you, but I'm just kind of like, I think even people who looked into the lesser looked into things are probably still very amazed with the kind of things that are happening in these recent years. Because I could be wrong, but I imagine people who knew ancient mystery school secrets and knew all kinds of stuff, even they would probably be boggled by the stuff that's going on right now with us.
I mean, you know, even this recent controversial show with Jeremy. I mean, he's a straight up occultist, and he's been in it for more than 20 years. He expert. He gives talks at universities. So, I mean, go to his Mandela go to his YouTube channel. He's actually given lectures at colleges. So it's like, and he acknowledges it, and he is, you know, that's his reputation, and he's like, yes, he sees it. So, and I've spoken to other people who, you know, like the doctor I'm speaking with, you know, hopefully we can get him, you know, on the channel and we can talk to him, and he is saying yes. I mean, everyone is saying yes, absolutely. So, you know, different people, different opinions, all of them seeing it. So it's really interesting. It's very interesting. Anybody there?
My gosh. You got majorly destroyed there with your last couple of sentences.
Oh, yeah, because you were blanking out on me too. Are you still there?
The whole reception cut out.
Okay.
I can hear you.
It's kind of funny. I wanted to go a little over. We're a little bit over. We are now cooking in the top chat, and we're starting to break up. Did you hear me?
I heard maybe one or two words.
I think the hologram and the frequency is saying the show is probably being close to being over. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear that.
Okay.
I think that you were probably hitting on some points that were a bit too relevant, so now you're getting serious problems with the connection.
Yep, we're losing the connection. All right, Chick, do you want to go ahead and call it? We're well over an hour. I wanted to go about an hour and a half. I was hoping, but we're yeah, Mark Passio. Yeah, I've heard some of his stuff. He's great. I've listened to one or two of his shows, and I got to get more into his work. Definitely, I've heard of the guy. Yep, absolutely. But hey, Chick, did you wanna any parting words or anything? Because I think, did you catch any of this?
Yeah, I could hear the last part where you were saying about parting words, and
Yeah.
yes, I just my gosh, my computer's going crazy too, so I hope that everyone can hear me. But I was really excited for today for episode 52, and I was not disappointed. I was so glad that everybody showed up to celebrate it with us. We got more than 75 people in here right now.
Are you there? I think we lost Chick. If you guys can hear me, if you can't hear me,
Listening. And
oh,
even though we're having wild,
they're shutting us down, people. They're shutting us down. We have too much truth here.
yeah, you're getting shut down for sure. I can hear like just little tiny bits, little tiny syllables.
Okay. All right. So that's it. It's an hour. We got in what we wanted to. It's been 52 weeks. It's been a wonderful year. Everyone, thank you so much. I see everyone in the chat. I appreciate every single one of you. And this next year coming up, we are going to take it to yet a new level, no doubt. In fact, we've already started on some new ideas that I'm going to float over to Chicks to see what she thinks about them, and we are on the way up. So, from me and Chick, in case she are you can you hear me,
Yeah, I'm
Chick?
still
I don't
here.
even know.
I
Oh, you
yeah,
can
I
hear
can hear
me?
you now.
Oh, good. Ah, of course, now we've decided to sign off. Now everything's going to be okay.
Well, it's been crazy for the last couple of minutes. It sounded like a remix of your voice.
Right. Well, they were saying that yeah, we've hit too much. We hit too close to the bone this time. So it's like, they're shutting us down. So all right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and shut down before they go ahead and shut us down. And hopefully if I still have a channel. So there you go. Anyway, we'll see you next week.
See you next time, everyone.